Here in New York is Paul Rieckhoff, host of the Independent Americans podcast. And just to dive a little deeper into one of the emails Libby referenced, it's on the tablet here, where Ghislaine Maxwell was receiving an email from Jeffrey Epstein. So Epstein writes that I want you to realize that the dog that hasn't barked is Trump. And then says one of the victims, who's not identified here, spent hours at my house with him, meaning Epstein's house. He's never once been mentioned by the police chief, etc. I'm 75% there. So since that came out, Paul, the Republicans have said that that's Virginia Giuffre, who has said publicly, or did before she died, has been quoted as saying that, you know, Trump did nothing wrong or nothing inappropriate, that kind of thing. But this is one of a number that mentions Trump today. Impact?
I think it's slowing him down. I think Trump's like a steamroller right now, and Congress and the Democrats haven't been able to really stop him on anything. But this keeps popping up. You know, it's a fire they keep trying to put out, and it's a fire that keeps coming up. And I think where folks are concerned is where there's smoke, there's more fire. And every time that they're explaining from the podium, they're losing momentum. They're getting distracted. And it's bipartisan. I think that's the undercurrent of all of this. There is bipartisan support for releasing the files. And also, you know, Trump's the guy who said, hey, release the JFK assassination files, release information on UFOs, release anything you have on 9/11. But in this case, they don't want to release everything. So I think he's in conflict with his own message, and he's in conflict with his own party. And ultimately, this just keeps slowing him down and distracting him from his other priorities, and it's not going away. And I think most Americans, especially because, frankly, it's salacious, every time Trump's name gets mentioned, they're interested, they're tracking, and they want to know more.
Well, to your point, it was his party and kind of his movement that kind of really started the push for all of this. So he's still got some work to do with Republicans, Lauren Boebert, maybe Nancy Mace, to see if they'll vote for this discharge petition. Maybe, I think he's trying to talk them out of it. That's the reports today. However, that petition likely goes forward now that the House Speaker, within the hour, is supposed to finally swear in Adelita Grijalva, a Democrat from Arizona. She was on with Elizabeth Vargas last night, and her swearing in, she believes, was delayed by Epstein. Here's what she said.
I was elected 5 days before the shutdown. There was a whole freshman class in 2019 that was sworn in during the shutdown. All of the excuses that Speaker Johnson has thrown out there have been debunked by things that he's even done. So there is no other legitimate reason for the delay in my swearing in. It had nothing to do with the shutdown.
Right, because your point is they could have had a pro forma session and, you know, she could have been sworn in, but instead the House wasn't even in session at all.
Yeah, bigger issue. I think some Americans don't realize the House hasn't been in session in weeks, right? I mean, throughout this entire shutdown, they're not going to work. Now, whether they were trying to delay this or not, I don't think they can delay it anymore. The House has to come back in session. They have to vote on ending the shutdown, and this is going to be front and center. And it continues to come up from their own party. I mean, the president's lost Marjorie Taylor Greene on this. I mean, that's someone who used to be one of his most passionate, dedicated advocates, and folks are out in front demanding that. So I don't think he's going to be able to spin out of it. And the media seems to be all over it. And I think it's a matter of time before Congress has to face it front and center. I wish they would also take up something like oversight on potential wars in Venezuela. I wish they would take, you know, obviously action on ending the shutdown. But this is going to be there. And now they've got to face it. I don't think Johnson can kick the can down the road anymore.
We love talking New York City politics with you. On a federal level, there's a district here in New York. Jerry Nadler's representative for years that has now an open seat with him leaving. And Caroline Kennedy's son, the only grandson of President Kennedy, is running, Jack Schlossberg. Now, you know, we've had young candidates win citywide, but I don't know that you want to compare Jack Schlossberg and Zohran Mamdani. This is, or maybe the opposite would be true, or the other side would say, well, this is a time for political dynasties, and those have not been treated very well. What do you make of it anyway, Jack Schlossberg and the rest?
I think it's a new generation of politician, right? On the right and on the left, you've got someone who's got obviously some name connection, but even more so, he's a social media star. He's a multi-sport athlete. He knows how to do TikTok. He knows to go and be a fighter and be out in the streets and look good and sound good. And that, I think, more often is what's defining this new generation of politicians. You know, these are young people. It's time for new blood, and the new blood has been built online. They're a different kind of politician.
Something about somebody coming out of nowhere and someone coming out of the Kennedy.
Yeah, I mean, he's not coming out of nowhere, but he's got a skill set that has proven to be valuable. Whether you're Marjorie Taylor Greene or you're Mamdani, part of the challenge right now in an attention economy is, can you grab the mic, right? And I think that people want to see someone who can capture the mic, who can bring attention to their community or their constituency. And you know, if I was somebody like Jerry Nadler, I'd be very worried, because I think someone like this is coming on strong and will smoke you, just like Mamdani did the establishment here in New York and Republicans have done in other places.
It has to be someone like Jerry Nadler. Nadler's on his way out, but he's, you know, he's endorsed a protege in the race. We'll see where that all goes. Now, You mentioned Venezuela. I wanted to give you a chance to reflect anyway on Veterans Day, which was yesterday. As a veterans advocate, we talked about veterans issues all the time. You know, this is the place, maybe, where we might see a new group of American veterans formed, or do you think that's going too far? What are your thoughts about what's going to end up happening in Venezuela?
I think the goal for Veterans Day is always to make every day Veterans Day. We want the same kind of focus, understanding, attention to values, and even unity that we had yesterday carrying over for the rest of the year. And I think one of the things you can do if you want to really advocate for veterans is ensure that if the government's creating more of them, it's as a last resort. Right now, Venezuela looks like there may be imminent war. We're staging, they're staging. There could be strikes. There could be boots on the ground. The questions everyone should ask is this necessary? Is it absolutely necessary for our national security? And is it necessary to send men and women to die and create potentially an entirely new generation of veterans who will be marching in parades down the line? If you want to advocate for veterans, I think you've got to ask those tough questions.
How do you see that now?
Any president. I think right now it feels like the country is not behind this. There's not even unity in their own party. I don't think there's been a congressional approval, obviously. Right. And there hasn't been a case made to the country. I mean, we've heard everything from knocking out narco boats to regime change. And if this is going to be regime change, we did that 20 years ago, right? And it didn't end well. And I think a lot of it feels like what I would call chicken hawks 2.0. People who haven't actually worn the uniform, people who weren't marching in the parades yesterday, but are quick to send other people's kids to war.
All right, Paul, as always, thank you. Paul Rieckhoff with us. We'll see you next week. Now, Penny, for your thoughts.